I graduated from the school system that we presently send 5 of our children to. About May 27th, 1982, our district implemented the so-called guidance and counseling. I say so-called because the goal of it is not guidance and counseling. The testimony of Larry Johnson. I'm a resident of the city of Milwaukie, Oregon. I am affiliated with the schools of North Clackamas School District in the way of an advisory committee member via the Gilchrist Elementary School. I am happy to be in Oregon. I was born and raised in Oregon. I graduated from the school system that we presently send 5 of our children to. About May 27th, 1982, our district implemented the so-called guidance and counseling. I say so-called because the goal of it is not guidance and counseling. Ding, ding, ding.
Oh,
we have a winner. When I went to my first school board meeting, I said, why would there be any controversy over guidance and counseling? Why? And they said, yeah. And they said, oh, well, there are some people who believe in absolutes. I just sort of dismissed it. But then as I got into the advisory committee, they asked me to review it. There are a few things in there that do surprise you. When they start questioning your children, you do get a little bit concerned. And here are some examples. They ask open-ended questions such as, what do your parents do? Sometimes I lie when fill in the blank. There is the assumption in the question that sometimes lying is acceptable. I hate it when fill in the blank. That's just planting the seeds of hate. Here's a what's important to you worksheet. Number 5, which would be the hardest for you to, and they're supposed to check which one. Steal a toy from another child's desk, cheat by looking at another child's paper, tell a lie to a teacher. So the problem is pretty obvious. Here are other specific examples. We have a daughter, Brooke, who is in the 9th grade. On February 15th at Clackamas High School, they showed 2 movies in the so-called health class. One was called The Right to Live, Who Decides? This movie showed actual actors playing out the lifeboat situation, where you have the lifeboat that's got too many people on it and it is going to sink. So therefore you have to throw somebody over so the boat will float and you save some of the people. So they go through the values. They say, well, this one's a doctor and this one's handicapped. This one's a youth. This one's a parent. This one is an attorney. They go through the process of placing a value on each person. I totally object to that type of situation. Everybody has a tremendous value in our entire country. Nobody has more or less value. What they are planting here is the assumption that you are more or less valuable because of your contribution or whatever. Well, that's not what we believe in, and I don't like that type of teaching. The people would be screaming as they were being thrown over and killed. One might refer to this teaching of killing and murder as rather dramatic, but it's happening, and it's right here in your kids' school. When it's your school and your kids, you get sort of directly involved. The whole situation was also in our talented and gifted program, TAG. Last year, when our daughter was in the 4th grade, they had the TAG kids enact this thing. One was a housewife, and one was a child, and one was a teacher, and one was an engineer or whatever. As a group, they had to decide who lived. And the one they decided to throw out first was the mother. It just rubs me the wrong way that the mother would have the least value in that whole setup. Then there was another movie called Parents, Who Needs Them? The notes are Brooke's actual notes from the day, We didn't know they were going to have a movie, and we didn't ask her to take notes. The teacher asked questions and put them on the board. What good are parents? What will they do? Are they very important? She puts answers like they take care of you, they teach you things, they provide entertainment. And then in the movie, they showed parents and children fighting. Do we need that? There is so much negative in the world as it is without having to plant more and more. I have a real problem with that sort of thing. Well, look, this whole idea of when you hear schools say, we're family.
Yeah.
What they actually mean is we are the parents now. That is what they're saying. And it is a huge theme right now with schools. It has been for quite a long time that, we're a family. No, you are not. You are not a family. You are not part of my family, other than my child is my family. But when you hear that, honestly, people need to just start replacing that with the school telling your children that they are the parents now.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. And these philosophical discussions that is normally reserved for, people discussing philosophy at a very esoteric level, they're putting it onto kids who have no wisdom to make these kind of decisions. All it does is break them mentally. It forces them into these decisions where these left-wing Marxist indoctrination centers can move them towards this. Now, when you're listening to like who has a value, engineer, mother, a doctor, whatever they're saying, that's training them. This is training wheels. So later on, when they get older, it's like, oh, a black poor person has more value than a white rich person. So you see, they don't get to, we're going to kill the rich and let's go kill Elon. They don't get there right away. They start with stuff like on the boat, who deserves to live, who deserves to die, and they assign values, but like Jen always says, through whose lens? Well, through the lens of it, whose values are they? Then that's what they're doing. They're training the kids to later on only assign value to the people who are communists and
at the same time, while they are doing that, they are teaching that America is racist and oppressive, that these people like Elon Musk are the reason that you have all of these problems, that he's not, sharing his wealth, that it's because of people like that. So when you start in this way, with this, what is being explained here, and apply values, and then at the same time, you're teaching them who the source of their problem is. Whether it's capitalism, it's successful business owners, it's Elon Musk, it's Donald Trump, whoever you want to name. Once they get through this indoctrination program by the end of, the 12 years, what do you think? Where do you think that they're going to put their hate towards?
It's like why the left always, they celebrated that murder of that healthcare CEO.
Yes, exactly.
So it could be anybody. You own property, you own 3 houses. That's 3. That's 2 houses more than you need. Why are you not giving that to fake marginalized people? So they don't get your kids there right off the bat. They do things like what we just read. That's their training wheels.
Correct. And then I just wanted to just go to the lesson actually about the boat. And I want people to really think about how easily children are manipulated. When I think of my young children, I think anybody that said, okay, you have to throw one over, they're not going to say mom, because I'm mom in their life. I'm everything as far as, when you're talking about an engineer or a doctor. However, I just want people to understand how this type of teaching goes, especially with young children. So when you list out everyone on the boat and let's say you have an engineer, a doctor, and a mom, you say, think about your life going forward. And is it important to always have these engineers that build our buildings right so that they don't fall down in our bridges, so that we don't fall into the lake when we're going over the bridges? Is that something we need to have around for, forever? And the children are just, of course, yes, that's scary. I don't want to drive over a bridge, right? What about doctors? Think about when you get older. the older you get, the more a lot of people need more doctors and care. Of course, we need that our whole life as well. What about your mom? What do they do? Well, they do these things for us right now, but eventually we're going to grow up and have our own families. And so children are super easily manipulated. So if you have to choose one and you're thinking about your life going forward, which one are you going to throw over? And I know a lot of people listening might think that sounds crazy, but when you think about the system that these children are under, this indoctrination, this separation from the family, this idea that whatever they think and whatever they want to assign value to is important, even though they're being manipulated into what to assign value to, it is not far-fetched to think if they were sitting in a scenario where they had to choose one to throw over, who they're going to throw over.
Well, that's why they threw mom over in that exercise.
Well, that's what I'm explaining, so that people can
how they got
understand
there,
how that lesson could get young children, to agree to throw mom over, even though
who would do that? No child would pick that. No child would pick that by themselves.
No child would think that. But listen, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I would throw my mom over.
Yeah, nobody, right? Yeah.
But young
the last person you throw over,
especially when their whole life depends on going home to mom and dad, or their caretakers.
Right.
To think that people can manipulate children and get them to that point, it is frightening. And people need to really understand this entire system and how manipulative and dangerous and harmful it is.